So that's a bit of hematite corrosion. I left the tank out while I was cleaning the inside, got a bit of flash corrosion on the outside. So I'll just show you what cure rust or rust converter looks like. So at the moment it's a ferric oxide. If we put this stuff on it, we convert it to a ferric phosphide, I believe. I'm going to do the whole tank, not because I'm looking to protect it in any way, but just because otherwise I'm going to have to clean the whole tank before. I'm just going to put a flash coat of primer on it, just be ready to go to workshop to get properly done. As you can see, the colour changes to, should actually normally changes to like a deep purple colour. Not so much here, but that's what we're expecting to see. As we're just waiting for that coating just to completely cure, to show the inside. As you can see, it's pretty ready now for to put the liner on. So you can see the tank's got a nice purple colour now. That's that conversion process going on. All the excess stuff, anything which isn't actually bonded with the rust, to be honest, isn't doing anything. So you may as well take it back off again. Yeah, so while I'm waiting, I thought to just talk a little bit about rust. So the rust you see there, I think I mentioned it's what I believe is hematite. It's 40 something years since I dealt with it, since I learned this. So hematite, and there are other types of rust. Okay, it's down to the ratio of iron to oxide. Depends on the type of rust. There are variations in that, as people will no doubt point out, depending on the crystalline structure. But the most common one you're going to see is the hydrated form of ferric oxide. That's that flaky rust, right? And you've got to get all that. If it's inside the tank, and it was on this one, and this tank was in an extremely bad state, you've got to get all that off, right? And I get it off mechanically initially. So what I do is I put in stainless steel acorn nuts, so they're the domed nuts, and gently rattle around. Don't go crazy, just rattle around. You're just breaking off, mechanically breaking off as much of the rust. Don't use galvanized nuts. You can use mild steel nuts, that's perfectly fine. Don't use galvanized nuts. I won't go into details why, but you can look it up. Okay, it's to do with, you can smear the galvanize onto the ferric oxide, and it produces thermite. Right. So that's the hydrated form of ferric oxide. Got to get all that stuff off. So on this one, what I did was I initially mechanically removed as much as possible, washed it, and then I put in a battery acid. People use acetic acid and things like this, absolutely 100%, because I just put in, it's a small quantity, probably around about a third of a litre, no more. Slosh it around, give it about 10-15 minutes maximum, because otherwise you're going to start damaging the parent metal. And then just fill it full of water, so you end up with a very, very mild solution of sulfuric acid, or is it chloric acid? I can't remember now. Sulfuric acid, isn't it? Right, so once that's done, leave that overnight, pour it all out, wash, because you gotta passivate the metal again, otherwise it'll just corrode really quickly. Right, and this one was particularly difficult, okay, because there was a product stuck to the bottom. It was probably around about 5-6 millimeter thick of a layer that when you picked it off, it'd come off like a rust scab, a big old thing, some of them. And I thought it was rust, and I thought this tank is roached, you know, this is throw it in the bin time. But when I put it against the magnets, it was non-magnetic, so it was obviously a hydrocarbon. The only thing I can imagine is that whoever had this before had put in a preservative or something, and you know, obviously all the petrol had evaporated, the preservative, you know, it hardened, and it was a nightmare. And you're probably looking at 20 hours work to get it all out, through various different means. Go through some. I used mechanical, you know, poking stuff in, high pressure water jet. I used a petrol, because you've got to find a solvent that breaks down the bond of the material, and I also used the stuff that you use for cleaning car engines. I've got the name for that at the moment. right, and all that stuff, and just kept going and kept going and kept going and kept going, and I think it's good enough now. I don't believe if there's any more of that product, I think it's very de minimis, so I'm not particularly worried about it. Certainly, when I look through, I've got an endoscope. When I use the endoscope, I can't see anything, so I think we're good to go. So I'll just quickly run through the tank liner itself. So I use Pore 15, right? I've used others; they're all good. Okay. The only thing you got to watch is sometimes there's a different the technique used is slightly different. It's really key that you follow the instructions. I should have mentioned this right from the beginning, but most of the stuff I'm talking about, you must wear goggles. Okay, it's absolutely critical. Don't take any chances, and you should wear protective gloves as well, for sure. Right, so what you have is 3 items. You've got an instruction kit, instruction leaflet. Follow it 100%. Whatever it says to do. The only problem with these kits is that I think they're really aimed for the American market, where temperatures in most places are quite a bit warmer than here. So it talks about temperatures which is not achievable really. Right, but anyway, and I'm wearing a woolly hat at the moment because it's freezing in here, but there you go. So first thing you do is you've got to wash the tank. So use the degreaser. So this is water soluble, so you do mix it with hot water. It's a bit hard, isn't it? Do mix it with hot water, put it in, give it a good slosh around, give it a really good clean. Put it out, rinse it out, wash it, make sure, see what the water's like as you're rinsing it. If it still doesn't look like clean, go for it again, and go for it again, and go for it again, and keep going until it's nice and clean. Okay. And then comes the metal prep. I'm not sure what's in this, but what it will do is it'll passivate the surface. It talks about it neutralizes the rust, or etches the rust. It'll certainly etch the surface. Okay, so this goes in. It must go into a perfectly dry tank. Okay, so I did I think it's 14-15 gallon car tank, and what an absolute nightmare that was. If you've ever done one of these, a motorbike tank, and you think, God, that was a bit awkward, try and do a tank that size. It was an absolute nightmare to get it perfectly dry. So that's the metal prep that goes in. Slosh it around. I can't remember how long for, but I will read the manual. And then finally is the actual tank coating itself. Make sure you give it a good mix up. It's nice and liquid. Don't forget you've got to cover the holes. So I haven't got the thing, but this one has a flange face to mount the fuel tap. Right, some of them they obviously have just the screwed holes. You have to blank that off. Don't blank it off using your old using your fuel tap, because it's going to get fully blocked with the sealant, and the sealant goes really hard. Okay. With the tapped ones, the ones where you screw in, what I do is I just tape it up, allow it to fill up, and then just drill it out. Okay, it works perfectly well. Okay, it's no problem. This one, I've just got a piece of wood, an old seal, and I just clamp it in, and that works fine as well. And then you just crack on, and that should be it. And when you put this in, what you do is you put it in. Obviously you're going to have to blank the top off as well as when you've done that, and then you just keep rolling the thing around, and you just keep going and going and going and going round and round and round and round until there's no real liquid left. It's starting to go off. At that point you can just leave it. Okay, and then it'll go off overnight then, and that's all you do. So I'm not going to show you the process because it's not a spectator sport. I'll show you what it looks like when it's finished. Okay, so just while we're waiting for the tank to dry, I've just given it its wash. I'll just show you what came out the tank, and then maybe one of you clever chaps can tell me what it is. So this is my magnet for doing my welding. This is the material. Well, you can see that, but there's a lot of this. Okay, so if it would fill, let's say, a litre cup easily. This is just 2 pieces, so non-magnetic, completely non-magnetic. It's quite thick, about 6 mil, but it's very frangible. See, when you feel it, it's not gritty. The other thing as well is at the moment it's got the solvent from the cleaner in it, the degreaser in it. If I were to leave this here, so the degreaser, the solvent and the degreaser evaporate, it'll go sticky again. And it's quite difficult to clean off. Then you've got to go and then get another solvent to actually clean it off. You can't just wipe it off. So it's a hydrocarbon, but I don't know what it is my honest answer. I don't think it's come from petrol, or I suspect it's something that's been added. Anyway, for interest, answers on the postcode. So that's the tank lining in. I think that's successful. Looks okay to me anyway. Just to restate about, make sure you wear safety goggles, gloves for this stuff. It's nasty. The metal conditioner as well. It talks about pouring it back into the container so you can reuse it. I don't know whether that's true or not. Presumably it must be, but you really want to be pouring it back in the container anyway, because I don't think it's particularly environmentally friendly. So you don't want to be pouring that down the drain. I guess the only other thing as well about, if you're wondering if you can do this with a tank that's already been painted. So this tank was painted, pre-painted, and I've put a line in this one, and it's fine. Okay, so you can. Just to think, in terms of temperature, it was about +3 outside. It's about +5 in here, something like that. So it's a little bit low for curing the sealer. So what I did is I used my heat gun just to warm the tank up to around about 30 degrees. You can measure that if you like, or I just do it by feel. You know what 30 degrees feels like. That's degree C. And that's it. Thank you.